What if everything you thought you knew about Meghan Markle was a lie? What if her so-called charitable acts were nothing more than carefully crafted PR stunts designed to keep her in the spotlight? The latest scandal surrounding her fire relief video has left many scratching their heads, questioning the true motives behind her every move. Is she really the compassionate, selfless figure she claims to be? Or is there something darker at play beneath the surface? In this video, we will uncover the hidden truths that the media refuses to report. Those uncomfortable details that Meghan would prefer you never learn. The story she's selling, the one about helping a young fire victim, might not be what it seems. Why did she need to make sure the world knew about it? Was it really about helping a teen? Or was it just another way to polish her image? Stick around as we dive deep into the contradictions, the secrets, and the undeniable signs that suggest there's more to this story than meets the eye. Keep watching, because what we're about to reveal will change everything you thought you knew. And trust me, you won't want to miss this. Let's start by asking the burning question. Is Meghan Markle truly trying to help those in need? Or is she simply playing the role of a well-rehearsed actress? Desperate for the public's admiration? Meghan's recent video where she claims to have helped a teenage girl devastated by the fires has certainly made waves. The story goes something like this. A family's house is destroyed, and a 15-year-old girl, devastated by the loss, is left searching through the ashes of her home for something that matters. One thing, a Billie Eilish t-shirt. Now, Meghan swoops in like a true hero, helps secure this shirt for the girl, and, of course, makes a heartfelt video documenting her generosity. But let's pause here for a second. Doesn't something about this story feel off? I mean, a t-shirt? Of all the things a teenage girl might want after losing everything in a fire, it's a concert t-shirt? It's hard to imagine that the first thing on her mind, standing amidst the wreckage of her family's home, was memorabilia. So, is this really about helping? Or could there be a much darker motive at play? As we dig into the details of Meghan's video, we begin to see a pattern of self-promotion disguised as charity. Consider the way Meghan introduces the story. She doesn't mention the fire victim's struggles or give much detail about the devastation. Instead, she focuses almost entirely on how she became the hero of the day. The whole narrative centers around her efforts, her connections with celebrities like Billie Eilish, and her emotional reaction to the plight of the girl. Is this truly about the girl and her family? Or is it just another opportunity for Meghan to create a story where she's the star? But let's look at the timing of it all. Meghan claims that she saw this young girl, whose house was burned to the ground, at the exact moment the family was allowed to return to their property. However, here's a significant issue. No one was allowed back into these areas at the time. Local authorities had sealed off access to the affected homes, and yet, Meghan was able to walk right in. So how exactly did she manage to meet the family under these conditions? Could this be another case of Meghan playing by a different set of rules? Was her visit to the fire zones really a generous act, or just an orchestrated PR stunt, complete with the camera crew ready to capture every emotion and every name drop? Here's where it gets even more interesting. Let's talk about the specifics of the merchandise. Meghan goes to great lengths to describe how she managed to get the signed Billie Eilish merchandise, emphasizing her connections with A-list celebrities. But what's truly puzzling here is why Meghan couldn't simply go to the Billie Eilish website, buy the merchandise, and send it directly to the family. Why the convoluted process? Why the need for a big, dramatic reveal, complete with a public unboxing and a carefully crafted narrative? It seems more like Meghan was more concerned about showcasing her charity than actually helping the girl in a meaningful, personal way. After all, real generosity doesn't need to be broadcasted, does it? Now, let's look at the bigger picture. This isn't the first time Meghan has been accused of using charity as a vehicle for self-promotion. Historically, Meghan has made countless efforts to brand herself as the voice of the marginalized, the underdog. But the more you look into her actions, the more you start to question her sincerity. Does she genuinely care about helping others? Or is this just another chapter in her ongoing attempt to reshape her public image? This is the same woman who has claimed to want privacy, but has consistently done everything in her power to remain in the public eye. From her Netflix shows to her constant media appearances, the disconnect is palpable. As we move forward, one must ask, who stands to gain from this? Who is really benefiting from these carefully orchestrated moments of compassion? Could it be that Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, is not just the self-proclaimed humanitarian she claims to be, but rather a master at manipulating public perception for her personal gain? Hold on to that thought, because as we dive deeper into the facts, you'll begin to see a different side to this so-called charitable act, one that raises even more troubling questions. Meghan's supposed generosity is starting to look more like a calculated move, designed to keep her relevant in a world where her star is slowly fading. So, who is really the victim here? The girl who lost her home? or the public. Being sold a carefully manufactured image of compassion from someone who may not even fully understand what it means to genuinely give without expecting anything in return. So far, we've uncovered some major red flags. But let's dig deeper. What about the contradictions and the pieces of this puzzle that just don't fit together? If you're like me, you're starting to wonder, could this whole story be a smokescreen? Meghan's tale of rushing to help a fire victim sounds heartwarming. But when you peel back the layers, the inconsistencies become glaring. And not just a few, there's a pattern here. First, let's revisit the timeline. Meghan claims to have met the mother and daughter in the midst of the wreckage. But here's the issue. No one was allowed into the affected areas at that time. It's a fact. Emergency services had sealed off the area. Not to mention the police were on high alert, keeping people away from the ruins. So, how exactly did Meghan and Harry get access when even the residents were barred? If they were granted special privileges, why hasn't anyone asked why? It doesn't add up. We're led to believe this was a spontaneous and heartfelt visit, but in reality, it might have been a well-timed media event designed to benefit only one person, Meghan Markle. Let's pause and reflect on something else. Why wasn't this generous gesture done quietly? Real philanthropists often help without the need for applause. Meghan, however, chose to broadcast this act to the world, capturing every moment on video. The help she gave wasn't a private affair. It was carefully curated for public consumption. When was the last time you saw a genuine act of charity so thoroughly documented? Think about it. A teenager's life has been reduced to ashes. And what's the first thing we hear about? A signed Billie Eilish t-shirt. Forget the trauma, the displacement, the loss of a home. No, it's all about the merch. Why is this the focus? Could it be that Meghan was more interested in the public perception than in actually solving real problems? Now, let's circle back to something even more troubling. The details of the t-shirt. Meghan talks about her heroic efforts in contacting Billie Eilish's team to procure a signed shirt. But why didn't she simply go online, buy the t-shirt, and send it directly to the family? It would have been a simple, thoughtful gesture. Instead, she had to make it a production, turning it into an event that served her brand more than anyone else's needs. And if we're being honest, why are we to believe that this was anything other than a PR move? She's not just sending a t-shirt, she's creating a narrative, one that paints her as a savior. This is the Meghan Markle we know, constantly curating her image. What's even more suspicious is that Meghan was quick to name-drop Adam Levine and Bahati Prinsloo as helping her with the t-shirt. Why does she feel the need to involve other celebrities in this story? Could it be because she needs to reinforce her status by associating with the rich and famous? If this was really about helping a family, why not focus on the family itself, not her connections to stars? This isn't about charity, it's about building a brand. And frankly, it's a brand built on exploiting tragedy for personal gain. Now, let's take a closer look at Meghan's actions over the years. This isn't the first time she's been accused of using charitable causes for self-promotion. There's a long history here, one where the help she offers always seems to come with a camera crew in tow. Whether it's her work with women's rights or mental health, Meghan is constantly in the spotlight, making sure her name is associated with every cause she touches. But here's the question. Is she truly interested in the causes? Or is she just interested in looking good while doing the least possible amount of work? In every charitable act, there's an opportunity for her to shine. But what does she do with that spotlight? Instead of helping quietly, she turns it into a media circus, ensuring that the focus remains on her. It's like a broken record. Meghan has perfected the art of turning goodwill into a personal marketing strategy, all while portraying herself as the ultimate humanitarian. It's as if she's asking the world to applaud her for the bare minimum. As we get closer to the final details, we're faced with a more uncomfortable truth. Meghan's entire persona is built on crafting an image of herself that's far from reality. The more we dig, the more we see the cracks in the facade. Her latest stunt, the Billie Eilish t-shirt, is just the latest in a long line of acts designed to keep her in the public's eye, all while making sure the world knows exactly how generous she is. So, as we near the end of this section, we have to ask, are we witnessing a charitable act, or are we simply watching Meghan Markle continue her relentless quest for validation? The answer, I believe, is becoming clearer. Keep watching as we unravel even more secrets hidden beneath this tangled web of lies. Now, let's take a deep dive into something that could be the most telling part of this entire saga. The discrepancies and glaring issues that seem to have been buried in the rush to paint Meghan Markle as a hero. Could this entire situation be a well-orchestrated scheme? Could Meghan have staged this entire act of kindness to serve a much larger, more self-serving agenda? The more we explore, the more unsettling this whole story becomes. Let's start by focusing on one of the most curious elements, the timing of Meghan's video and the claims about her meeting the fire victims. According to Meghan's narrative, she met the mother and daughter, while they were allowed back to their property. A location that, at the time, was completely off limits to everyone. Authorities had blocked access to prevent looting and to ensure safety. So how did Meghan, who was supposedly there as a concerned celebrity, gain access when even the homeowners weren't allowed in? This raises a very important question. Was this visit a carefully staged photo op? Or could it be that Meghan was simply caught in a situation where she, once again, played by her own set of rules? Here's where things take a sharp turn. If Meghan wasn't in the fire zone to help, as she claims, then what was she really doing there? The problem is that her story doesn't just stretch the truth. It falls apart when we consider some very basic facts. For example, the story about the washing machine and dryer being turned to ashes is downright implausible. These appliances are made of metal. Metal doesn't burn to ashes. It melts or warps, but it doesn't disintegrate into dust. Was Meghan simply misinformed? Or was this another small fabrication to make the story seem more tragic, more dramatic, and more relatable to the audience she's trying so desperately to impress? But the inconsistencies don't stop there. Let's talk about how this whole thing was packaged and presented to the world. Meghan didn't quietly donate the t-shirt or send it privately to the family. No. She made sure that everything about this good deed was captured on video for public consumption. She even took the time to show off her jewelry, subtly highlighting her rings, as if to remind us of her status. She couldn't help but inject herself into the story, making sure that she was front and center, even in a tragedy that wasn't her own. Is this really a charitable act? Or is it more about maintaining an image? Let's be real. Charity doesn't need to be broadcast for everyone to see. The very act of showing off a generous gesture is a contradiction in itself. Now, think about how she orchestrated the entire narrative. Meghan didn't just casually reach out to Billie Eilish's team. No, she had to name-drop Adam Levine and Bahati Prinsloo to make sure we knew just how connected she is. Why the need for this level of exposure? If this was about charity, about helping a family in need, why all the grandstanding? Why turn a simple donation into an opportunity to remind the world of her celebrity connections? At what point did helping others become more about helping herself? Now, I can almost hear the critics' argument. She's just trying to help. But think about it. If Meghan were truly as altruistic as she claims, wouldn't she have quietly facilitated the donation? With no fanfare and no camera crew? Wouldn't the gesture have been about the recipient, not the one doing the giving? Real charity isn't about seeking applause. It's about being discreet, about making a difference without seeking validation. Yet, with every move, Meghan seems to be desperately seeking that validation, as if she's unable to do anything without it being seen and acknowledged by the world. And here's the kicker. While Meghan was busy making sure everyone saw her good deed, the fire victims were left to pick up the pieces of their lives. What happened to the families who lost everything? What happened to rebuilding their homes, restoring their memories, and helping them with practical needs? Instead of focusing on what really mattered, Meghan and Harry decided to focus on themselves, and the media ate it up. But here's the bigger question. When will they stop using tragedy for personal gain? Is this really about charity? Or is it just another page in Meghan's never-ending quest for relevance? As we close in on the final details, we can't ignore one very important piece of this puzzle. The more we look at Meghan's behavior, the more it's clear this is a pattern. It's not about helping others. It's about using others to stay in the spotlight. This latest stunt is just one more example of Meghan trying to craft a narrative to control how she's seen by the public. But it's all falling apart. The cracks are beginning to show, and it's no longer just about the story. It's about the story she's telling and who it ultimately benefits. So, as we wrap up this analysis, think about this. Was Meghan really trying to help? Or was she simply trying to boost her image once again? The answer seems clearer than ever. But stay tuned, because there's one more shocking revelation coming up that could turn everything you thought you knew on its head. As we piece together the fragments of Meghan Markle's latest PR stunt, it becomes clear that what we're dealing with isn't just an isolated event. It's part of a much larger pattern. A pattern of manipulation, self-promotion, and calculated moves designed to maintain relevance in an ever-changing public spotlight. But the most pressing question we need to ask now is this. Who exactly is behind these carefully orchestrated good deeds? Could Meghan really be the mastermind behind this? Or is there a more powerful force pulling the strings? Let's take a step back for a moment. We've seen Meghan Markle in countless media appearances, each more dramatic than the last. From her marriage to Prince Harry to the constant media frenzy surrounding their every move, Meghan knows how to stay relevant. But here's the kicker. This video wasn't just about helping the victims of the fire. It was about creating a narrative, one where Meghan is the hero, the compassionate celebrity swooping in to save the day. But why does she need this narrative? What is it that she's trying to prove? And more importantly, who is she proving it to? The answer might lie in the bigger picture. The ongoing battle for relevance and control. Meghan, who once portrayed herself as a victim of the royal family, now seems to be trying to position herself as a champion of the people. But as we've seen, this is all carefully staged. The t-shirt, the meeting with the fire victim, the name-dropping, all of it fits into a narrative that's been carefully curated to make Meghan look like the ultimate philanthropist. But is it really philanthropy? Or is it a masterclass in manipulation? Let's explore the possibility that this isn't just Meghan acting alone. Could it be that Meghan and Harry are not just victims of their own ambitions, but pawns in a much larger game of media manipulation? Over the years, they've built a brand, one that depends on controversy, on drama, and on being seen. Every time they're in the spotlight, they need to ensure it stays on them, no matter the cost. And in the case of this latest fire relief video, the cost is simple. The real story, the tragedy of people losing everything, has been overshadowed by the spectacle of Meghan Markle helping. But here's where things get even more interesting. Could Meghan's latest move be the result of an intentional strategy to position herself in the media as more sympathetic, more engaged, more human than ever before? What if this whole disaster tourist routine is less about charity and more about giving the media exactly what it wants? Pictures of a vulnerable, emotional Meghan to keep the public invested in her journey? After all, without this media frenzy, Meghan risks fading into obscurity. She needs to stay in the headlines, whether it's through her charitable acts or through manufactured controversies. So, is this a case of Meghan using tragedy for her own gain? Or is there something larger at play here? Something darker and more manipulative than we realize? The fact that the focus is consistently placed on her and not the victims themselves tells us everything we need to know about her priorities. It's not about helping, it's about creating a story where Meghan Markle can remain the center of attention. But here's the twist. As Meghan continues to curate her image, as she plays the role of the selfless humanitarian, the public's perception of her is slowly starting to shift. The cracks are beginning to show. People are starting to see through the facade. And the more she puts herself out there, the more questions are being raised about her true motives. And as we get closer to the end of this saga, there's one final, unexpected detail that could blow this whole story wide open. What if the very people she claims to be helping aren't as helpless as she makes them out to be? What if they, too, are complicit in the narrative she's crafting? Stay tuned, because this is where things are about to get really interesting. The final piece of the puzzle might just be the most explosive revelation yet. As we wrap up today's deep dive, the picture we've painted is far from clear-cut. What seemed like a simple act of charity by Meghan Markle quickly unraveled into a web of contradictions, self-promotion, and let's face it, questionable motives. We've seen how her actions, often framed as compassionate gestures, might actually serve a much deeper purpose, keeping her name in the headlines, keeping her brand alive, and playing the role of the victim-turned-hero. But the real question here isn't whether Meghan's latest stunt was for publicity. It's why we continue to buy into these narratives. Is it because we want to believe in the Meghan Markle that the media has crafted for us? Or is it because we are simply entertained by the drama? When does charity stop being about others and start being about you? And more importantly, what does it say about us when we let someone like Meghan manipulate the story to fit her agenda? This story isn't over, not by a long shot. As Meghan continues to curate her image and battle for relevance, we can expect more twists, more contradictions, and more PR stunts. But will the public buy it every time? Or are we finally waking up to the truth behind the facade? What do you think? Is Meghan Markle truly as charitable as she claims? Or is there a deeper, more self-serving narrative here? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's get the conversation going, because this story is far from over. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more updates, because the next chapter is sure to bring even more revelations that you won't want to miss.